All right, I think we are now live. Hello, everyone. I'm Angie. I sit on the BPW Moncton board, currently the secretary, and I chair the Phenomenal Woman Award. Today, we're joined with Angela Taylor. She is my boss. She has over 20 years experience in commercial real estate and is the operations manager for the National Valuation and Advisory Services team in Canada. She's taking the time to sit with us today and discuss what it's like to be a female boss in a male-dominated industry. Hi, Angela. How are you?
I'm great, Angie. Thank you for having me.
We'll get right down to it. So you've been at CBRE for how long?
I am currently just starting my 23rd year with the company, and the entire time with this particular group, which is a small group within a larger brokerage firm.
And how many employees do you manage currently?
Currently, we have 75 people coast to coast. That's a combination of some appraisers, some junior staff, and some administrative staff.
And over the past 20 years that you've been operations manager, how has the company shifted towards a ratio of men to women employees? Are we progressing in a direction where we're more female entering into the industry, or is it still mainly a male-dominated field?
So commercial real estate is still predominantly male dominated. You know, I sit on management teams and we talk about this quite often, actually. You know, what is it we're not doing to attract women in the industry? You know, what could we be doing better? You know, is it you know, an old boys school so women don't think that, you know, they fit, those sort of things. And the reality is we just haven't, you know, society hasn't caught up to that old boys school. So, you know, younger people are just starting to think about getting into commercial real estate. We went through a big time where everybody wanted to be, you know, the next programmer or the next, you know, video game producer. So we had young talent, particularly women, going in different directions. So over the course of my 20 plus years at CB, I have seen a very big change in having female brokerage people. So that would be professional real estate salespeople. CB, when I started back in whenever I started in the 90s, there were probably a handful of female brokers throughout the country. And there was probably one that was consistently in sort of our top 25 billers nationally. And now, you know, we've seen, you know, people as young as 20, that 23 to 25 year age where they're just really starting their career. We've seen them win awards. We've seen them be in the top 20. So we are changing. The industry is definitely changing. It's going to be slow to catch up.
Do we see, in terms of management, do we see more women taking leadership roles, or is it still mainly men in those roles right now?
Well, it's an exciting time, actually, right now that you asked me this. For the first time in the company's history in Canada, we've just named our first female managing director. Which is an amazing feat, and in the province of Quebec, which is, you know, one of our harder provinces, I would say, to manage in, and it's got probably the most male personalities than most of our other provinces. But yeah, we have several, you know, directors and, you know, in our finance world, almost all of our managers are female. CB, since the beginning of time with me anyway, you know, they've really tried to push women in bigger roles, and they give you every opportunity that you possibly can, you know, to climb the corporate ladder, to provide opportunities. So, you know, I see that CB will have lots more managing directors that are female coming soon, I'm sure.
That's great. So what inspired or shaped who you are Like, who's your role model? Why are they your role model? Is there a specific woman that's inspired you and helped guide your career, or a mentor?
I don't, it's an interesting question. There's not really one person I would say that, helped me shape my career or was a role model. I think, certainly your grandma and your mom are always going to be role model, right? Your friends, I have a lot of friends that are, you know, corporate, on the corporate side of business, homeschooling business, daycare. So I think a combination of a lot of women help shape who I am, because I think you learn, everything from the people that's in your life. On the mentor side, I've never really had a mentor. I do now, sort of, kind of, I guess. I'm fortunate enough, and you know who he is, Angie, to work with a gentleman by the name of Paul Morisuti, who's vice chairman of CBRE. He's been in the business for a lot of years, and I really have learned a lot, mostly by watching and listening and absorbing, and mostly because he'll push me to the forefront and have me deal with things that are generally dealt with by him. He's thoughtful in his approach to clients and to our staff. He speaks well, he presents well. So I would say right now I lean on him to be a mentor, to teach me these things.
I'm sure he leans on you as well. Now, do you currently mentor anyone, or is that something that interests you?
Yeah, we do have a formal mentee mentor program at CBRE. It was suspended due to COVID for the obvious reasons. It's very difficult to stay in touch with people and to run these programs in this environment. But I've never volunteered, no, nor have I ever been asked. But if I think about my daily life and what I do and who I speak to and how I handle myself, I would say that there's a lot of colleagues that I think probably look towards me as a mentor. So I guess in a roundabout way, I am mentoring someone somewhere.
I'm sure you are. Your early career with CBRE, you started off in a more entry-level role. When did you know you wanted a leadership kind of position, or was it just something that grew organically, or how did that happen?
Well, it did grow from, just being in the position for a long time. But I think, pinpointing to one, I guess, episode that thrust me into the leadership role would be, I worked with a gentleman for about 12 years, 12, I guess 14 years actually, and he left CBRE. And when you work with someone and you're under their wing for a long time, I think you forget that you have superior skills, and I realized when he was gone that I really was kept under his wings, and I didn't put myself out there, and all those things that you should be doing your whole career. And so I thought, I've been running the group for a long time without actually being named or acknowledged that I was in that leadership role. And I decided right then and there it was time that everybody knew that I was in the leadership role, and everybody acknowledged that. And so I took on more responsibility. I learned a lot the hard way, and I haven't looked back since.
That's great. Was there any resistance internally, family, of you taking on that position, or was it just something that everybody was super encouraging? And
Yeah, I mean, I have a very supportive family, so there was no issue there. I mean, there were lots of late nights and missed dinners and all those things that happen when you're building your career, and no one's any hurting from that. Let's put it that way. And then internally, no, everybody at CB encourages you to be the best that you can be, and it encourages you to grow your career and grow your status and all those good things. So I didn't have any resistance at all.
what about from external, from suppliers or clients? Was there any resistance there?
Well, I did have I did have some clients who are the older generation, who, they knew me when I was, the admin girl who, picked up the phone for her boss. And so not that it prohibited me from growing by any means, but there was a time where, I was always looked at as that admin girl as opposed to, an operations manager or other roles I've had throughout my time with CB. And that is, that's just time, right? People over time will forget what your role was, and they start to embrace what your role now is.
So there was no set thing that you did that helped these clients necessarily embrace the new position, or was it just getting them to get used to it,
Well,
basically?
I'm pretty straightforward, and I'm not afraid to you know say what's on my mind. So, when I was being called the secretary, go get your boss, I would say, well, I'm not a secretary, first of all, and even if I was, there's a please and a thank you, and there's respect and all those things. And I think the more that I spoke that way, in a respectful way, I didn't flat out say it the way I just did here, but the more they got used to that, the less they started asking for anyone else but me.
Good. As a female leader, what's been the most significant barrier on your career, if any?
Haven't really had a barrier. I certainly have had some struggles, I guess, being a female leader. Uh, the biggest one is when you're significantly younger than some of your staff members. You grow from being, an entry level person to now, you know, being their superior. Um, some of the older generation gentlemen, and it's always been the guys, unfortunately, um, they struggled with that at the very beginning. For sure, they struggled. They're educated different than I am, um, and so they really gave me a run for my money at the very beginning. But again, time heals everything, and people get used to new ways, and those who didn't, some of them are just no longer with us, to be completely candid about it.
Yeah, I mean, things change as the younger generations come in. That's always true in life. Everybody's brought up and educated differently.
Absolutely.
Um, I'm sure the way that somebody coming in their 20s are looking at things being brought up the way they are is totally different than somebody that's at retirement age. So there's definitely that and all the in-betweens. Um, what do you think has been the most significant barrier to female leadership in general or overall? Is it just the older generation, or uh, is it more from starting at the entry level to working your way up? Um,
I think society hasn't caught up with reality is the best way to describe it. I think for our industry, I can certainly speak to, it has always traditionally been a male dominated industry. All the leaders in any facet of commercial real estate, if they've had children, their sons have joined the firm, and then they only know what their fathers know. And it's been this cycle, I think, has created that. Again, we're seeing the change. We're just seeing it very slowly.
I know in say my role or even your role in our company, where we're mostly in the office and we're not on client sites, are different. But have you or heard of any of the appraisers or brokers that have ever been afraid on a site because they're female?
No, I mean, I I have heard appraisers be afraid on the site, male or female, because the building itself is scary or the lights aren't on and something happens. But no, we have a philosophy here that if you're uncomfortable, then don't do it. So if something makes you uncomfortable, or you you view it a danger to yourself, then don't do it. And we'll never ask you to do something that would put you in danger. So no, I've never heard of anyone.
Good. What kind of changes with the course of your career in terms of women in leadership? Is it just more now that society and the industry is catching up that there's more of us in the leadership position? Or is there any other changes that you've seen leaning kind of towards the positive?
Yeah, I think, we certainly discuss, women in leadership a lot more today than we ever did even 10 years ago. I think that, women coming into the workforce, they're in a different headspace for sure. A lot of women aren't coming in at the entry level. They're coming in at the higher levels, which, automatically you now have, a bigger population of women leaders. I think we're just talking about it more. And I think women are getting, more comfortable with it. We're all, we're all seeing that we can do it. And so we take every opportunity that we can.
What's your favorite part of your role?
Oh my goodness. My favorite part is also my most frustrating part, but it is the variety of my day. I can be talking to clients, and I can be talking to staff members, and I can be talking to, people in between. And it's my favorite part is just being connected with people and, having the variety where I'm not doing the same thing day in and day out, and I know what my day is going to look like.
Okay, so on your very best day at CB, what did you do that day?
I got through 3 of the 5 things I wanted to get through in the day. That would be that would be my best day.
Nice. What's the biggest impact you think you've had for CBRE?
I provide stability, and that can't be taught. You know the longer you're in a position, sometimes is not better. For me, I represent the past, the present, and the future. And I think that helps any organization, because if you have the history of the past and you live in the present, you can almost dictate the future. And when I think about the little list of things that I do, I can do a budget from scratch because I know the past, I know the present, and I dictate the future. So I think that's the biggest impact for sure.
Okay. And can you share with us a tough day and kind of how you got through that?
Oh, I can think of one tough day. I had quite a Friday afternoon where one of our most prominent and the biggest billing team that we have um, all took me into a room one by one and resigned. And they took me into a room where all of the other employees could see that something was going on. And it was probably the first time in my career that I ever shed a tear and let anyone ever see it. But it was tough because they didn't want to go. I didn't want them to go. And doing this one by one and knowing other employees were watching this transpire was, emotionally and physically tough. And then the fallout that happens from that. So they immediately leave, and now you have 20 other employees just, what's going on and what happened, and, the water cooler syndrome. And that day it just took a real deep breath and wherever you get your strength from as a woman, or as a person for that matter, dig deep and put on that, great, it's going to be okay face, and just get through the day. But that would have been my toughest day by far.
Yeah, I can absolutely see why that would be hard for anybody. Um, so if you had to start over 23 years ago, Would you do what you've done now, or would you do anything differently?
Well, I would definitely take more computer courses. Of that, I can assure you. And anyone who knows me would say yes, she should do that. You know what? I wouldn't do anything different. I have the same philosophy in life, quite frankly. You know, every step, good times, bad times, every win, every loss, every mistake, it all leads you to where I am today. Um, and sometimes, the hard knocks of learning things is really not good for everyone else, but it was good for me to learn and to grow. And so, no, I don't think I would do anything different.
Good. What motivates you to get out of bed in the mornings?
Oh, the surprise of the day, I call it. Um, so I'm a morning person in the sense that I like to get up early and I like to start my day early. I wish I could motivate myself to start my day in the gym early, but I cannot, unfortunately. But it's really honestly the surprise of the day, the variety in my job and the everyday surprises, although annoying during the day, by far it feels that way. It really motivates me. I can say at the end of a week, every week for 22 years, I have learned something new during that week. And so for me, that's a motivator because I'm always seeking more knowledge.
You must find it a lot easier now to balance work life versus home life, where you're in a situation where, same as me, like your kids are starting to get a little older as well, like mine are in their teens. So it's definitely not as difficult trying to balance it. How did you get through those primitive years of trying to balance the work and home life?
Well, lots of wine, but uh, from a professional level, that whole saying it takes a village. It really took a village. Both my husband and I started our real careers at the same time, and our kids were 20 months apart, and so family and friends. There were a lot of last minute late nights, and you have to lean on those, closest to you. You have to have a very supportive partner for sure. Um, and when you do spend time with your family, you have to really spend that time with your family. So I've been very disciplined in my career that, Friday at some point, whenever I shut it down, it doesn't come back to life until Monday. And so spending meaningful time, when you can, kind of outweighed the less time that you spend with them. But I mean, it, being a mom and being a professional, you feel like you fail on both sides of that fence all the time, whether, my kids are significantly older now, 19 and 17, but still feel that same pressure, right? Like somebody always is giving more than the other, and generally it's your family, unfortunately, as you're building your career anyway. But yeah, that's sort of how I approached it.
Now, in terms of feedback, so as a leadership role, you have to give feedback to employees, and I'm sure you also receive it. So how do you deal with giving and receiving that? Do you find that it's more difficult? Like, do you get emotional about it, or is it just something that you let it roll off your back? How do you kind of, put up that wall that it's not going to affect you as a human?
Well, I've either been really lucky in life or I've I've been smart. I can't really figure it out. Uh, I love feedback. I love good or bad feedback. I've never received bad feedback in my career for whatever reasons. I just haven't. But if I did, I would embrace it. Um, Giving feedback is really difficult. Giving good feedback is easy, right? That's the easy part of any leader. Giving bad or difficult feedback it's tricky. And so I take the approach of knowing the person I'm speaking to, understanding how they would take that kind of feedback, and then adopting what my message is going to be so that they understand it. I have had to, obviously let people go in my career. It's ugly. It doesn't make you feel good. You don't sleep the night before. It lingers for days after. So those are difficult. Those are difficult to tell someone, hey, sorry, but you're not good enough. But I think you approach it, at least I approach it, respectfully. And, when you work with people, you inevitably have some sort of relationship with them. You may not be best friends, but you have a relationship. And so you have to separate a business decision from an emotional decision. So for me, it's all about taking any emotion out of it. I talk to my husband about it. I talk to my boss about it. I do whatever, get that out of my system. And then I approach whatever it is I'm trying to say.
What advice could you offer to women in a leadership position or women who want to lead?
So one of the biggest things I see, and I don't know if it's just in our industry, but I see women who think that they need to come out of the gate like a bat out of hell, right? Like, I'm going to come out of the gate. I'm going to be the toughest. I'm going to be, in your face. I'm going to prove to you that I'm a strong woman who can lead whatever it is you're leading. I would say stay true to yourself, right? Be who you are. People will always respect you if you lead by example, if you work smart, if you work hard. There's no need to prove anything other than those things. All the accolades will come, all of the opportunities will follow. And so I would say just stay true to yourself, be who you are, not who you think everyone else wants you to be.
Okay, that's some good advice. What advice would you share to young women entering a male-dominated field?
So it's kind of the same advice I would tell anybody entering any field. Be a sponge. Go to every meeting that you possibly can that's offered to you. Go to every conference that you possibly can go to. Get out there, meet your colleagues, meet your clients, meet other people in your industry, like do all those things so that you're setting yourself up, that people know who you are. People know that you know the organization that you work in outside of the little team that you may work in, and everything will follow. Everybody will remember you. So take every opportunity that your organization gives to you and run with it.
That's great. What life lesson took you the longest to learn?
Oh, can't please everybody all of the time is that life lesson, it professionally and in my personal life, for sure. You spend a lot of your early years trying to please everyone, professionally for sure, and then there comes in a light bulb or an aha moment where you say, it's never going to work. I'm never going to please everybody all of the time. So
That's so true.
that's my lesson.
That's very true. It's something I struggled to learn myself. So I think a lot of us can relate to that one. Um, what's the biggest leadership lesson you've learned so far in your career?
I would say it's almost like my answer to, how to get into leadership. I still listen to every, broadcast that comes out of our company. I still attend every meeting that I possibly can. I really try to understand what our company does, broader than what I do. And so that makes you a strong leader. That makes you a more well-rounded leader, for sure.
Nice. Yeah, that's definitely true, especially in the company that they have so many different branches where you're not necessarily interacting a lot. Just in our industry with the brokerage, and then you have the project management side and all the other finance and whatnot. So that definitely makes sense. And lastly, what are some strategies that can help women achieve a more prominent role in their organization?
I think all of the above, what we were just talking about, right? Getting your name out there, getting people to realize that you're always looking for more. You're always wanting to learn more. You're the first one to put up your hand. You have to learn early on to speak when you have something to say and not speak because you think you have to speak. That's a really good lesson to learn too. But it's all about networking, right? You have to network yourself in order for those opportunities to come your way. And the more you know about whatever industry you're in, you're always going to be better off.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Well, I think that's all the questions I had for today. Is there anything you wanted to talk about
Um,
or any other advice you wanted to bestow on us?
yeah, I mean, I would say, early in your career when you're young and you have young children, it's really difficult, right? It's very difficult to build a career, be a mom. Then you're, if you're in a male dominated industry, it's hard to rise above the rest and shine and all those things. I would say don't try to do it all at once, is what I would say. Do it in layers, find your groove, add to that next layer, and sort of take your steps upwards. I've seen a lot of women fail at trying to be all of those things that they want to be simply because they try to do them within a year. It took me the better part of 6 years to sort of layer myself into a situation where I was in a leadership role, and then it took me another 6 years to actually go out there and say, hey, I'm the one now that you need to come and see, not whoever it is I work for or with. So that would be my advice. Just layer it on. Don't try to do it all at once, because it's going to be a lot harder.
In your opinion, so a lot of companies are starting to come up with different networks. Like CBRE has a women's network. I know of other companies that have something similar. How do you feel that impacts the women in the work industry in that company? Do you think it's a positive thing that just helps elevate us and gives us a platform for a voice, or do you think it makes not so much impact?
Well, I think if it's done right, it can make a big impact. I think anytime you can see or hear or get to know women in your industry who, started as, an admin assistant, or started as a junior broker, or started as whatever your industry entry level is, and they work their way up. They will always have something that will trigger something in you. They will always say, or they will always have a story, or something that will trigger something in you to say, hey, you know what? If she can do it, I can do it. Or I want to talk to her more, and so I'm gonna schedule a time with her because I think I can learn more. So I think if they're done the right way, they're very effective. I think if it's, we're going to have this women network so that we can tell everybody we have a women's network and we don't talk about anything, I think that's just a lost opportunity. And I'm not sure anybody gets anything out of that other than maybe a lunch if it's in person, or, or another meeting in their calendar. But I believe in them if they're done correctly.
I agree. I think that it can be such a valuable tool if done properly, for sure. Um,
And
some
women
companies,
and women like to talk, right? So,
yes, we do.
so you're always going to get a good conversation out of something.
That's absolutely true. We definitely know that at BPW with our meetings and our board meetings and whatnot. So it's definitely a lot of fun to help support and encourage each other. Um, I just wanted to take a quick second to say thank you very much for doing this Facebook Live. I know that it's not exactly either of our comfort zones. So it's a little
Oh,
it's a little difficult.
yeah, it's all about that learning, Angie, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Get out of your comfort zone and learn something new.
There, we've crossed something off the list tonight.
There you go.
Well, I think that's all we had, unless you had anything else you'd like to add.
Nothing from my end, but Angie has my contact details. So if anybody ever wants to chat, please feel free to give me a call, send me a note, and I can make some time and share anything you want to share with me.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, ladies. I appreciate it.
Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.